method, and we used that with on a few occasions. So I brought a few examples of that, and yeah, that helped to make our product more resilient and change it in a way better way. The other method that this is all based on helps us to understand change and to shape it in a way. And it especially helps us to understand which kind of play and which kind of game is appropriate for solving which kind of design problem. So I want to start talking about that. It's the concept of pace layers. Quick hand sign, who's using pace layers? All right, great. Thanks, Will. Pace layers are a concept, so it's worth explaining it. Stuart Brand, an architect, actually coined the term in 1994 when he was pitching them as a model that is absolutely great for understanding how modular modern buildings change over time. So let's look at the pace layers that modern buildings consist of. So this is the pace layer model from Brand, and he says that there's that these buildings consist out of layers which change at a different pace. The fastest pace layer is the stuff inside the buildings. For example, this table is stuff. My MacBook is stuff. I brought that in here. I'm going to take that out of the building right after the talk. It changes super fast. On the other side, the site this building here is standing on changes at geological pace, super slow. The structure of the building could be moved to a different site. Yeah, we could do that, but it would take forever and it would be a huge hassle, right? So we see buildings consist out of different layers that change at different rates. So what else do we learn from that model? We can change each of these layers independently, which is great, right? So like we can bring the stuff in and out, and that doesn't have to do anything with the space plan in here. Still, each layer influences and responds to the others closest to it. Just think about the stuff you tried moving last time you moved from one apartment to the other. So the stuff really relates to the space plan. Not every bed, not every cabin, not every kitchen will fit in any other space plan. So they're somehow related as well. And pace layers aren't only great to understand change in buildings, they're also great to understand change in like all kinds of different settings. For example, also different information environments. So that was the example that stood most out to us and that helped us most in defining our pace layers and understanding the pace layers of our product. So Jorge Arango, he names form as the fastest changing pace layer of the digital information environment, so the interfaces, for example. And the purpose, the reason why the environment is there, is the slowest changing pace layer. Yeah, so we did the exercise to actually understand which pace layers our product has. And we came up with 5 distinct pace layers, which change independently at different rates. The fastest one is form. The user interfaces, it consists of the visual appearance of it, our entire like modular fancy design system, the microservices, the micro front ends, yada yada yada. Then we have the flow and governance layer. Flow and governance, changes also pretty fast. On the other side of the spectrum, we have the culture layer. It's why we are there. It's the thing we're trying to bring forward with our product. The rituals which we have as teams. These are the things that change way slower. And you see that there's some kind of grouping, right? So form, flow, data structure, I think we as designers feel pretty comfortable shaping them. And on the other side, strategy and culture, when did you really last time design that in a very conscious way? When did we as designers get the task, hey, can you redesign our culture? Yeah, so that is why Brand also, the architect, also analyzed that we have fast layers and slow layers. Well, so on the fast layers, we have, as I said before, we have the form layer, we have the flow and governance layer, where we see the user flows through our app, how users actually perform their daily jobs in our software. And the data structure, so the way the data is actually being stored in our application, so on. And yeah, so last time we heard an amazing talk about, at the last uXchange, we heard a great talk about service design, which is the toolkit for shaping flow and governance. I love that, right? So, and the form layer, for that we all know the tools, I don't really need to get in depth of that. Data structures, yeah, well, we can prototype that with YAMLs, JSONs, and so on. Way more interesting to talk about are the slow layers, because these slow layers, strategy and culture, actually influence fundamentally how fast we can change the layers above. So how the strategy and how the culture of our organization is looking like, or is working like, actually influences how fast we can change the form layer, flow governance layer, and so on. Yeah, so where was I? Yeah. So the culture layer, for the culture layer, we have close to no tools to design them, right? So what's the last really like big design exercise you did there? Create some values, put them on a poster, put the poster on a wall, and how great does that work to actually shape culture, these like poster design exercises? In our case, that really didn't work well. So like there were like, when Will and I joined the company where we are now, there was this poster with these values on the walls, but was the culture really lived that way? There were so many cultural traits in there that we didn't understand yet. And you can do these interviews, but in these interviews, people are conditioned to say what they kind of should say. So we needed a design method to research that, to understand the culture, so that we can then do our job and shape the fast layers in a really good way. So for that, we found the approach of game customization incredibly powerful. When I discussed the talk with a former colleague, he said a very wise sentence about that. So he said, games help people understand things which words can't explain. And I think this is a really good one, because this is where it really makes sense to bring games into your design process. When you need to understand something or shape something that you can't really put in words directly or can't explain. So we're practicing that for the past 2 years, these game customization workshops, and we found a good way to do it is first prepare it a bit. So identify the problem we want to tackle, find appropriate base games to play around with, and that would actually contain the dynamics of these problems already. Prep a few example cards of them, and then with our colleagues together play this original game and then customize the heck out of these original games. So theme them, design new rules, change the dynamics of the game, and that way like bring our problems into these games and then form them with the power of these game dynamics. I'm gonna have a few practical examples in a second. Yeah, so then of course after customizing them, we're playing the games, and you see it's a bit of a loop in here. So customize, play, customize, play, customize, play, until you have learned what you wanted to learn, or until you have an idea how to actually then put the change into practice. So in the end, yeah, deriving learning is always a good idea to note down what we learn. So 3 examples of where we did that and where we applied that approach and where it worked out. The first one is cards against whatever you need to discuss in a fun, politically incorrect and safe setting. So who has played Cards Against Humanity before? Right. This is most of people here. I'll do only a super quick explanation. Cards Against Humanity is an adult party game in which players complete fill-in-the-blank statements using words or phrases typically deemed offensive, risky, politically incorrect, and then printed on playing cards. So the problem we had in our former company was, I had in our former company, is that we had like this one insanely complex, hard, tough, challenging project that kind of burned everyone down. And in the retro, everyone was like, yeah, you know, that was okay, good. Now let's go on vacation, and after that, it's gonna be fine, right? But guess what? It wasn't really fine. So we needed some way to release that frustration. And releasing this frustration in a controlled way where everyone can understand each other afterwards way better and see then how we can tackle these situations way better in the next time worked really well with Cards Against Humanity, because it helped us to have this frame, it framed the situation in a way where we were all there to say these kind of politically incorrect things that we wouldn't before. Was that culturally like the best place? Well, debatable. But after that game, it was way better. So this really helped us to design our culture in the way we wanted it to be, really, really open. We used that again. We used the game again on our current workplace. When we started working there, there was no real design team. So we used the game to analyze the culture which was already there. So, and that way we could really well integrate. Into the cultural setting, and get to actually designing the faster pace layers very well, because we were culturally very well accepted by everyone. Second example is our epilot flux. Again, quick hand sign. Anyone who played Flux before? All right, new one. So fantastic game. Independently, if you want to apply this game workshops or not, try it out. It's a super fun game. It's a game where the rules and the conditions for winning are altered throughout the game via cards played by the players. So rules, actions, goals, and the ways you reach goals change in a very fast pace. And this reminded us a little bit of the nature of the scale-up environment we were in. So in order to better align the different teams which were in the company, everyone revealed their goals in this card game, and then crafted on cards the ways they would reach the goals. And this way we were able to align different teams pretty well and understand who did strategic pillars we needed for that quarter. So yeah, really helped us to identify the blank spots. So which strategic points doesn't everyone understand? Because it's just not the thing that everyone would raise their hand in meetings anyways, sure, and ask those questions, but it's a completely different story if someone explains to you a strategic play, or if you experience it during a card game yourself. Just like makes a whole lot of a difference. So everyone would reveal their goals, artifacts we got there, rules we thought that existed, actions that happened, and that speeded up the processes afterwards again. So this is a great customizing Flux is a great exercise for shaping the culture layer and for shaping the strategy layer. Now we were so excited about our cool game customization approach that we were like, all right, is this really only something for the slow pace layers, or is this something for the fast pace layers as well? And on the fast pace layer, on the super fast pace layer form, we came up with our design system memory. So I'm not sure if you can recognize it, but there's always on one card, there's always printed the front of the component, of the Figma component, and on the back side, there are printed the component name and the properties. Well, and if that game is very easy to win, very easy to remember, very easy and fun to play, then the design system is pretty good because it's easy to memorize, states are clearly differentiable, and so on. But if it's hard to play, components you can't differentiate, names you don't really get, where you don't really get the difference, that really gets out fast in there. And could you create an Excel file for this and do this in an Excel file? Yes, definitely, you could do this in Excel, but do you really want to? Don't think so. Yeah, so 3 examples where we learned a lot from. So, well, just want to quickly summarize our learnings. First one, know your pace layers. This is really essential for making this game manipulation, game customization approach work. You need to know on which pace layer you're operating in the moment, and you need to know which ones you're shaping with the game and for which ones the game is appropriate. So memory, for example, perfect for the form pace layer, for this visual thing, would be completely inappropriate for strategy, right? At least not if you want people to understand the strategy and not learn it by heart. Then the fewer layers, the better. The fewer pace layers you influence at a time, the better for you, because it keeps people focused. Then games trigger honesty. We learned that brutally. People suddenly speak out things they didn't dare before, and that's a great thing because then they're out in the wild and they can be discussed. Then don't get too fancy. Once I extended this preparation phase for about 2 months because I wanted to have like very neat illustrations on every card. Yeah, obviously a bad idea. So just try to keep the visual coding of the real game. Maybe they have the colors in there, but yeah, focus on the content. And then in the end, keep the fun alive. You can play this too often. So 1 round of game customization with your workshop in the evening, super fun. 2 rounds of game customization, still fun. 3 rounds, it gets tricky and just don't do more. Yeah, so to close this off, I hope that you're enabled to get your pace layers ready and have fun playing with them. That's it. Thanks.